All right, we are here with the culture architect,
Yes.
one of the most dynamic, incredibly funny, intelligent, driven individuals I have had the pleasure to meet in my life. And not only meet and know, but have the opportunity to coach and coach very early on when I was starting in the process. And I'd like to introduce you to the one, the only Mr. Tony Moore
I
of
like
Tony Moore
that.
Speaks.
I love that. Yes. When he makes it big,
Oh,
he'll have some intro music for you.
yes, I definitely need that.
It has to be by something by Tony, though. You know what
Oh,
I'm
yes, it feels
saying?
good.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I love
Definitely. Definitely.
Tony. And that is another thing Tony and I do share is the love of music. Oh
Music.
my gosh. We
Absolutely.
trade it back and forth and it is my joy. So, Tony, where should we start? Should we start at the beginning?
Yeah. You know, it seems like it was a lifetime ago.
Okay.
I think one of the things that happens when you're running an enterprise is time just flies, right? You just look up. I mean, with the exception of 2020, which seemed to go on forever and ever,
It did.
because life was moving really slowly, which was actually not a bad thing. I mean, it wasn't a bad thing occasionally to go out walking. It's like there's not a lot of cars driving around.
Oh,
It was kind of had a little bit of peacefulness to it, right?
agreed.
But overall, I think that it's time is just flies when you're running an enterprise, and you're continually thinking about what's next, what are you doing, how do you refine, how do you all of those things that are super enjoyable, but it does make the time fly. So yeah, so when we met, seems like a long time ago. So I was still in my corporate job at the time, and we had when I say we, my business partner and was also my wife of 31 years, and so we were having this conversation about starting our business, and at some point just sort of realized that if we didn't plant a flag and say, let's do this by this date, then it was never going to happen. That it potentially could never happen, right? That we could always. I think I said to her, we were on vacation in St. Augustine, and I said, I think if we plant the flag, it'll change how we think about what we're trying to do, and we can always move the flag. I mean, you can always go, well, okay, that date doesn't work because of these life circumstances, so I'm going to move it. But I'm moving a target as opposed to moving a vision or moving a dream, right? Or moving a dream. And so, and in many ways, it's like the planting of that flag was like the first. And this is going to may sound morbid, but in many ways, I think planting that flag was the first step toward draining the life out of the dream, right? Because as long as the dream still has life in it, it's still like a dream. But once you start living it, it's not a dream anymore. You're actually doing it. So that's kind of the first step of saying, this dream is no longer going to be a dream. So at any rate, that's where we were. So you and I met actually through a mutual friend, Tamika. Tamika was working on my team. We were working together, and I was talking about this desire, and I think I'm certain that she could tell that the ambivalence and the concern I had about making this kind of a jump. I will say to you, I don't think I ever had any concern that it wouldn't work. Right. I wasn't having those kinds of fears. And that's not because I'm just like super confident. It's just that that's just the way my mind works. Okay. So it's just the way my mind works. So there are times where I should be concerned about stuff that I'm not concerned about. So it's not like, it's actually a curse.
This is why your wife and business partner is the perfect balance.
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
Balance.
Yes, because she's sometimes worried about stuff. I'm like, why are you worried about that, right? I don't usually say that out loud, but since she's in the room right now, she now knows I said it in my head. I'm like, why are you worried about that? But
and she probably says, why are you not worried
about that? Absolutely.
But I will say, if I may pause for a second,
please.
in your important and very amazing story, that is the hallmark of the people I love to join forces with and work and support, that have a fire in your belly and a passion that is rising, that people, and luckily you'd shared this with Tamika, a lot of us in the corporate space that have established a place for ourselves and success and could ride that out till we get the retirement,
Yes.
that we usually silently or secretly have this dream,
Yes.
to your point, that is almost like a vapor, and it may travel with you, but until you put that flag down. I love that you gave that visual, which is the power of a decision.
Yes.
That you and Andra, your wife and business partner, having that conversation to make the decision was critical.
Yes.
There's a quote, I'm not sure who said it, is we are one decision away from an entirely different life.
Oh, wow.
And that's why it probably feels for both you and I that it was a lifetime ago, because that was a version of your life, a chapter of your life. And we were meant to evolve, grow, and have different iterations of ourselves. But many of us feel afraid to have a different iteration, or trapped, or just quite frankly scared to start over. But having that passion, and then that ambivalence of what you knew to be comfortable and certain, and then also having that vision that you said, I didn't have any doubt it was going to work. And I love that you drew that distinction of, it's not necessarily confidence, though it is. I give you back that credit that you took it yourself. You know, that you had that confidence, but that's also the power of clarity of vision and purpose and passion.
Yeah, that's good.
Around
that's
that.
good. Yeah, and I would add to that. I think that what you triggered there is so yeah, there is certainly a confidence, but it's not so much. I mean, I have to say this as best, make it sound as best I can. It's not so much was it confidence in my ability to do it. So it wasn't like, when I say I wasn't worried it wasn't going to work. It wasn't because I'm really good. So this is, how could it not work? I mean, come on.
So you are.
I'm me. Okay. But that's not what's going through your mind, or not going through my mind at the time. Actually, what I'm thinking about in terms of, I have this sense that it's going to work out the way it's supposed to work out. It may not work out the way I have planned for it to work out, but it's going to work out the way it's supposed to work out. And I'm going to be okay when I get there. If that makes sense. So it was that kind of a sense of, this is going to work out. I remember several people that when I started actually sharing it, and I didn't share it with the world, but as I was sharing it with people that I was close to, that this was something we were working toward, I had a number of people who would say that, because of your faith, God is going to bless you in this, because this is something that's important to you. It's going to be a blessing, And I remember finally saying to someone, I said, I will agree that this is going to be a blessing if you can understand how I frame a blessing. So I believe that I will be blessed because whatever happens, I will know more about God than I would have known had I not done this. So therefore, I'm going to be blessed. So I can't tell you whether I'm going to be filthy rich or we're going to be traveling the world. I have no idea. It may fail miserably. But what I will do at the end of that is I'll go, but I know God better. I pray more. I'm more leaning and dependent upon that force in my life. And to me, that will be a blessing. Wow. So it allowed me to move forward with, okay, well then this is not totally just in my hands. It's in someone else's hands. I still have to work. I still have to do the work, or nothing happens. But anyway, so yeah, that's what I think that's where the confidence, but definitely, I'm definitely confident. I mean, we use the phrase, I think what Andra would say to you is that I am frequently wrong, but rarely uncertain. So.
That's amazing.
So yeah, I'm confident. Oh, I got it right. You're always super certain about it, but you oftentimes are wrong. But I was so certain that was the right thing to do.
Some of my friends call that just loud and wrong. Just
loud and wrong. Yes.
I love that. I love it. And you just changed my perspective, or introduced us to a new perspective of faith. It's fascinating. Before you mentioned that's what your friend said, is as you were speaking, I'm thinking, that's faith, that no matter how it's going to work out, it's going to work out how it's going to work out. Faith. Yes. That often that's what trips a lot of us up, is it has to be, it has to work out this sort of way. Yes. And because it didn't, I failed, I'm a failure, and all of these other things that actually takes you further away from God, further away from Spencer, then, okay, wow, this stings. Yes. Or even if it's fantastical, where is your connection? Where have you grown in that? And you
Yes.
shifted my perspective of the word blessing,
Mm.
what that means as well, because often, like the word successful,
Hmm.
it's the definition of those things, successful and blessing, and really any word is
Wealthy.
wealthy. Exactly.
Wealthy. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
definitions and meanings of any given thought or word is dependent on the individual who's expressing it and experiencing it.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and that is what's so. I think that's you often talk about this evolution, and I think that's what has to be occurring at all times. Because if you take that for me anyway, for us, if we take that perspective, I think that perspective is what allowed us to navigate 2020. Because at no point in time in this business have we been married to a specific way of doing anything. What we've been married to is why we're doing it. And so as long as we stay on mission, we've got to be able to change how we do it, or we're going to be irrelevant. We won't be
Man.
able to fulfill the mission. So we also went into this business on a mission trip. So that also says no matter what happens, I can fulfill the mission. And that means I may find that, well, wow, I thought I was going to just be doing keynote speaking, but that's dried up. I'm actually going to do this now, or whatever. It allows us to painfully pivot, but to pivot.
Yeah. Pivot nonetheless. Yeah.
Yeah, pivot
Not
nonetheless.
escaping the pain that.
Oh no, there's no
that
escaping the pain. Oh no, or the
you,
disappointment, or no, there's no escaping that. That's a
yeah,
part
it's
of the
not
process.
always sunshine and
Oh
rainbows.
my gosh, no, no,
Not even
no.
a little bit. So you've
Yes.
given us a little peek at who you be. And I don't even like the question, what do you do? Because the essence is, who
Yes.
are you?
Right,
So
yeah.
tell us, what is it that who are you, Tony Moore?
Wow. Ooh, what a loaded question. I, the way I would answer that would be that I am one of those people who has a personal mission statement, and so I'm not thinking everyone has to have one, but it just gives guidance to me. And so my personal mission statement is that in every interaction, you would be better off having had that interaction with me than you would have been if you didn't have the interaction with me. And that's every interaction. That's the picking up pizza yesterday at the pizza place, and the cashier and her smiling and laughing about something that happened, and just, so I have this sort of, I want to lift people everywhere I go, so that every interaction is that way. Now, again, fail miserably all the time, because because as I say, both as a father, and also as used to say, as a leader, is that some days, and I'll just use leader in this equation, but some days I'm the leader that I'm becoming, and some days I'm the leader that I am. And when I'm the leader that I am, it's not as pretty as the leader I'm trying to be becoming. So it's sort of like when my mom lives with us, and so when she was when the final decision was made, we're going to buy a house so you can move in with us and all of this. I remember saying to her, it's easy to look like the Cosby Show when you only come in here every now and then, but it's going to look like Sanford and Son when you live here. Yeah, it's going to look a whole lot like Fred Stanford in here. So I'll try to make you proud, but most days I'm not going to be thinking about it. I'm just going to be me.
I'm just going to be being that, and that's it. And it's not always just this picture perfect place.
Oh my gosh, no.
And I love that. I love that about you. And I will say your answer to who are you is on point as far as my interaction with you. That every time we connect, even if it's via text, just to check in, you leave me better than I found myself previous to. You inspire me. You change my interpretation on life. You make me ask very important and powerful questions, and you crack me up. You're hilarious. So, and what do you do from that space of your personal mission statement? And what do you do in the world? Tony Moore speaks.
Tony Moore speaks. So quite a bit of speaking. So I will say that that's in a lot of different settings. It's very interesting. When I was in school, I used to get in trouble all the time for talking too much, and that was always on back in some of the probably people looking may or may not be old enough to remember actual report cards where teachers wrote things on the report cards, but so that would come home to your parents, and there was always some comment about talking. As a matter of fact, I had a third grade teacher once who said that if you would spend a little more time listening to me and less time thinking of questions, you'd have fewer questions to ask. Because as
The
soon as you start
hallmark of a
talking,
leader.
yes, and that's true. So as soon as you start talking, my mind starts thinking of questions to ask for clarification. So, but at any rate, it's fun to tell my mom now. Say, I used to get in trouble at school for talking too much, and now people actually pay me to talk.
Look at that.
So,
They should have enhanced that feature.
That's right. So, but we are. I think the simplest way to describe our business is that we work with leadership teams, typically executive, but leadership teams who are interested in improving their bottom line by creating this culture of engagement and ownership with their staff. And so how do we bring the absolute best out of people and give them a place where they feel comfortable and safe and empowered with a goal of impacting the bottom line. So it's not let's just all get along, because you can go out to happy hour and all get along. And sometimes not getting along is a part of the process of getting to safety anyway.
Say it again.
Sometimes if we're all getting along, it's not really safe. It's because it's false. Right. So sometimes not getting along is part of the process, but to create some space where people take ownership for their part of the world. I often say to leaders, you've got to go into the relationship as if you are dealing with a fully functioning adult. Wow. And until they show you otherwise, you will always deal with them as if that's what they are. And then and that way you can know, that way when you find those people, they'll rise because that's who they are. So we do that through a number of ways, whether it's some of it is everything from these little 45-minute hour sessions what we call our 45-minute hour sessions that we do virtually, where leaders come in and we take one topic and just zero in on it and our goal is, with that whole mission of walking away better, is for them to walk away with something they can go do right now. So you spend 30 minutes with me, 15 more minutes Q&A, and walk away and go, I can go do that with my team today, or that's a way we can improve communication today. That's something I can do right now. So whether it's that, all the way up to working with them over the course of, teams over the course of 12 to 18 months. And we do a lot of that work via our system that we call the Blueprint. So a lot of virtual work, a lot of content, a lot of self-driven learning, but a lot of group work. And then of course we do the keynotes, which are really still my favorite thing to do is to be able to get on stage. And so I don't know if I mentioned this to you last time I saw you, but I don't know if I mentioned the Middle East and Kuwait and all of that to you the last time.
Yes, we did.
So,
I remember that.
We actually are reviewing the contract.
Nice.
Came in yesterday or
worldwide.
So we're reviewing a contract from them to do some work in Northern Africa, and the company's actually realized, I thought the company was based in Kuwait. They're actually based in Egypt, but they work in all those areas. So how cool, right? My contact is from Egypt, so I told him, I said, whatever happens, we're coming to Egypt.
Listen,
right? So you're gonna show us around, right?
We need to see some pyramids in person. Amazing.
With someone who can tell me about what this is really all about, right? Someone who grew up with it. But at any rate, we're still getting those opportunities to get on stage. And again, even in those, it's I think that there are people who will say, so are you a motivational speaker? And I always have to say that I am motivational, but I'm not a motivational speaker. That the gift that God has given me is the ability to communicate in a way that moves people to action. So I don't have to think about how I'm going to come across on stage in terms of my personality on stage. What I have to think about is, how do I deliver something that when you walk away and you get back to your office, you can look back at your notes and say, oh yeah, we're going to start doing this, right? So it's less about getting you fired up and excited. I do want that to happen, but we like to say that we provide disruptive ideas to challenge your thinking, solutions that are born out of experience, and inspiration to move you to action. So every time we come together, that's what the goal is: to bring some disruptive ideas to challenge you, give you some solutions that come out of the world that we've lived in. So we try to stay in our lane, and then give you some inspiration to get you going and the energy to make it happen. So,
Oh,
so that
man.
would be what we do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it
So,
makes so much sense that
yes.
you are impacting the world via organizations, the culture of the organizations. And I want to circle back to where we started,
Oh
because
yeah.
it wasn't, because it wasn't always this way. I
Right.
mean, just
Right.
listening to you and talking to you, I marvel, I smile, because this is why I love what I do.
Yes.
Because imagine you when we met, and just having this idea, talking to your business partner and wife, Andra, about let's make this decision, put the flag down. You couldn't have imagined you're working with clients in Kuwait and
No.
in
Oh,
Egypt
no.
when we met here in Tampa,
Right.
just to talk. So talk to me about, where were you feeling limited? You had this vision and desire to speak, to use your gift, to use this gift that used to be punished and all of that.
Right.
But you had this desire and you were doing it a little bit.
Yes.
But meet me there in the space of where you were feeling like, I don't know if I could do this, or where you were feeling stuck.
Yeah, so I was definitely, I think two things. The first thing I would say is that Tamika clearly understood that I was feeling limited. I didn't know that that's what I was feeling. So I would never have labeled it that way. That makes sense. Again, that's that mindset that thinks, well, this is just, I'll work through this and this will be fine and all that. But I could have done that forever without that without starting the conversation with you. So that's why she said, you need to see a coach, which is why, and then I start laughing because I go, I am the coach. Talk to people who help me, I help others. That's
my role.
It's my superpower. And, yes, and overconfidence is my kryptonite. So
and keeping you stuck.
It keeping me stuck. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So she says, no, you need to, I've got a friend, you need to talk to her and you're gonna love her, she's gonna love you, you gotta do this. So I was like, let's do it. So we of course set up the time to get together. And I think where I was absolutely stuck, which may seem in conflict with some of the things I said earlier, is that I was stuck around two things. Three. Number one, although I wouldn't have labeled it this way, I will say to you that direct deposit creates a false sense of security.
Say it again.
Yeah. So that's number one. There's this security. I am working in a job that I'm really, really good at, and I'm going to say have previously been passionate about, and get crazy payment for it, right? So it's for me, I always think that the ideal job is the one where your ability to be the absolute best, however you define best, but to be the absolute best, to deliver superior results, intersects with your passion and your ability to get paid. Right. So I'm passionate about music, but nobody's going to hire me to sing. No one's going to hire me. So there's not going to be getting paid and there's no competency around it. But I'm super passionate about it. You know, I even got hats. I can go change hats and show you my jazz hat.
I would love that.
And I know how to walk like a cool jazz musician. I got all that down.
All of it.
But I can't play any instruments. So I think one is I was stuck. The places where I think I was stuck is, number one, I think that, again, there's a sense of security in direct deposit, right? So I've got a wife, I've got 2 children. My mom, as I mentioned, is living with us. And so that is a big deal. My daughter at the time is about to go into her junior year in college. I think when we first met, she was in her junior year. I'm sorry, she would have been in her junior year. So she's going to be coming into her senior year. I can't imagine doing anything. I don't want to do anything that jeopardizes that for her, jeopardizes my son's opportunity to go to college, puts my family at risk. So when you say who am I? It is God and my family, right? And so anything that's going to put them at risk, particularly financially, I was fearful of doing. That somehow my mind could go from fearful of doing that to we could be homeless, right? I mean, it could be, and quickly can see that vision, you know, and I couldn't imagine they'd be making a movie about it like that one that Will Smith was in, right? That would be the movie, right?
Living in the bathroom.
Right. With
your heart machine.
Right. Yeah, so that's that happening, right? So I'm thinking, so with my mind, so I think one was the security, this sense of security in this job that I have. The second, and not wanting to put my family at risk, so let's kind of put those together. And the second place where I was stuck, I alluded to, and that is that I still believed that I loved my job. So I still believed I loved it. So and it's interesting having now transitioned how often I've talked to people and they'll say what I used to say, and that is, I'm thinking about doing, just kind of starting my own business and doing my own thing, and or they'll say, maybe they don't even say that, they'll just say, just really struggling at work, and I mean, people, so much is going on, but I don't want you to think I don't love it, because I love it there. And I hear them say it 3 or 4 times, and then I end up saying, okay, so can I ask you a question? Do you really love it? and do you know that it's okay to not love it anymore?
Yes.
That is perfectly okay. That doesn't make it a bad place because you don't love it anymore. Oh. It's a relationship you're in with that job, and it may not be what it used to be for you. And that's perfectly okay. It doesn't mean you have to walk away. That's your call. But be honest about, I'm staying because I'm still passionate about it and I still get paid well, but I don't actually enjoy it anymore. I'm still good at it and I get paid, but I don't have any passion around it. And knowing that lack of passion is eventually going to continue to affect you, even if it doesn't affect your work. Yeah. It's going to affect you. Yeah. But make that a conscious decision that you're making, not something that you're some lie you're telling yourself about, I still love it. Because you don't actually love it anymore, you wouldn't keep saying that to me.
You're justifying.
Right. Like you're trying to convince me and yourself. But I love this place. No, maybe you don't. Yeah. And that's cool. You don't love it anymore.
That's hashtag. That's cool.
That's
Let's
hashtag.
Keep it
that's
real.
cool.
Let's keep it real.
That's right.
Oh, you're preaching the whole word. You had a third one, right?
Yeah. So I think that one was the security. The other was this belief that well, actually, the third one was I put them together. It was the family, and that was a big conversation that we had. You and I. Huge conversation.
And I could do a little praise dance. This is it's so real. It's so why I decided to coach powerful people first, like you, who didn't think you needed a coach, because you are the coach. You are the go-to. I love connecting with leaders who are powerful and that everyone looks up to, because oftentimes, who do they have to talk to?
Absolutely.
And they may not think they need to talk to somebody, but when they do, it's like, this is a safe space to actually profess. Honestly, I was previously passionate, and I have these very, very real responsibilities and loves and duties, which was a very real reason to keep on keeping on. You were vice president. I mean, who wouldn't?
Yes.
On paper, he's doing great. Keep doing what you're doing. But if inside you were previously passionate, I love that term. I'm taking it. That's cool.
That's cool.
Because previously passionate, when you do get real about that truth, that doesn't mean that you need to bounce out and be an entrepreneur. That's not for everybody.
No.
However, when you can face that and be real with it, then you have something to do with it, and it doesn't eat away at you, your happiness, your joy, because it really is a silent killer when you're justifying that and tolerating.
And you may need, and the discovery of that, or the being honest about that, may mean that I can do something different. Is there an opportunity for me to do something different here that will energize me again?
Yes.
That where maybe for instance, if what's happening is I don't feel like I'm learning, I feel like I'm just going through the motions. What can I do here that can make that happen? Because I'm not at a stage in my life where I can just walk away from this.
There you go.
Where do I really want to, right? But you become honest about that at the end of the day, because the one that's easiest to be honest about is that you're not getting paid enough. That one's easy, right? I'm not getting paid enough. So I either got to find another job, or I take up a side hustle, or I got to find another job. That was easy. Or competence, a little harder, but if you get there, you're like, you know what, this just is not my thing. I'm in trouble all the time. I'm late all the time. I'm not, because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm struggling. I tried to learn it. But the one around passion, when you've been previously passionate about it, that's a hard one.
You know what makes it hard?
What's that?
What I like to say, identity is a hell of a drug.
Oh yeah.
When our identity and who we've known ourselves to be, sometimes over decades, has been a thing and doing a thing and attached to a thing like a career, to even try to play with considering something new, especially when you either don't know what the something new is, or the something new requires starting from the bottom, and that's a far away from the payment that you're used to getting and all that, you then shirk back into, but I really love it, because you're trying to justify a space, when the truth is it's quite all right. And there's ways, to your point, to start to discover what corner of your life can you begin to pursue and tap on the door of to elevate and juice you up. And it may be a business, it may be some hobby you pick up that allows you to have a spring in your step when you go to work to get that good paycheck.
Yes.
So tell me, Tony, so knowing this and having this space and our conversations and you identifying and professing where you were, what allowed you through our work together to put that flag in the sand and start to shift toward, because it was once we met, you were pretty rapid comparatively. Like you decided and then made the move, and now you're speaking all over the world.
Right.
What in the coaching created that for you?
I think simply stated is that you quickly figured out who I was and spoke into who I was. And so here's what I would say, what I mean by that. I'll give you a classic example. I won't be able to say the words, but I'll give you a classic example. And that is this fear that my family and I are going to be homeless. You helped me realize that is not going to happen. Not because you're going to be some wild success, but because you're not going to let that happen. You're going to work another job. It is such a priority for you that there's no way you're going to let that happen. And that doesn't mean that it can't happen. Let's understand, of course it can, but you're being fearful of something that doesn't align with who you are as a person. Your values won't allow you to just do that. You'll go get another job. You'll leave this business. You'll do whatever is necessary to make sure your family is cared for because they're that important to you. And I think that was probably the biggest, because that was the biggest hurdle, was my family. I didn't want to put them at risk. And as I mentioned, the kids and college and all of those things. And it was like, I just think that my dream can be on hold or go away because we've already made a better life for them. And I want it to be even better than where we are, right? But I think that was probably the biggest turning point, is when I walked out of that office knowing that's not going to happen. You have delivered newspapers. You have cleaned floors. You know what I'm saying? You've been mopping floors at night and working during the day. I mean, it's like you're
willing to do whatever.
You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. That's not who you are.
Oh, that is the illusion we have. And it's real. It's so real to us until we do have an external conversation with a coach or whoever that can actually poke holes in that very quick conclusion. Yes. If I try to do this, I fail miserably, we're homeless. Yes. But it's like, there's so many steps in between that, like you said, it's not completely impossible that would happen, but given who you are, given what you think, how you feel, what is the actual probability that you would even allow yourself for that to be the end result. And when you really think about it, you're like, I wouldn't. And that even then fueled what you put into Tony Moore Speaks. And at this point, just speaking again, all over the world and allowing yourself the opportunity to step into the power of who you are, to how you actually bless people beyond the walls of the corporation that you were a star in. But now look at the ability of you. It unleashed.
It unleashed. I know your term is limitless, but that'd be a great description of it. It just unleashed all of that because I understood that wasn't who I was, which means, again, that somehow in a very short period of time, you quickly zeroed in on who I was and what was important to me, which means you asked the right questions. I know we did an assessment and all that, but you asked the right questions. You just essentially held a mirror up to my face and said, is that what you really see? Is that what you really see? And the answer was, well, no, that's not, so I didn't, and that's why I said, it wasn't so much about confidence that it would work or not work. It was these other barriers that I thought were there. And as I said, and the reality is, again, that direct deposit's a serious thing. It is that money just shows up. And it shows up even when you don't go to work.
Right.
You get up this morning, don't feel good, money shows up. I don't feel good today, a check doesn't come in the mail. No, we're on the hustle always, trying to get to the next thing that we're doing. But I think that was to me, that's what was so transformative about the relationship. And then I will say this, there was listening to you talk about a little bit about your own journey and where you were at that time and where you had been. And that also was an incredible encouragement. It was like, okay, so now I see people out there that are doing it, right? And you see, and unfortunately, I have to say this, unfortunately, when you see people, you see them in chapter 4 of their journey, and you're still in the beginning of yours, right? You haven't even written you don't even have a title for your book. Right. And they're already in chapter 4 or 5. And so you see them and go, well, I can never be like that. Right. I remember saying to someone one time that we were talking about John Maxwell. Right. And I said, you do realize that at one point he was just little Johnny. Yeah. And he didn't start off as John Maxwell. You're looking at him like he was always John Maxwell. Now he was just little Johnny. Right now I'm just little Tony. Yeah. And someday I'll be Tony Moore. But right now I'm just little Tony, and I'm starting at a place. And so I think it was seeing you where you were in your journey and having someone very real to talk to about what I was experiencing internally, and I will say this, it gave me words to use that I could then describe to Andra. Right. So, and it wasn't that because we don't keep things from each other. We talk about stuff. I mean, I don't have any problem being vulnerable to her. And the reality is when I'm not being vulnerable, it shows. And so she's just going to keep asking questions until we get to it. Right. That's right. So we've been together way too long for me to be able to hide.
Hey, hold up. What's happening?
Something's going on with you.
Right. This ain't cool.
Yes, it ain't cool at all. It ain't cool at all. Right. But I will say that those sessions with you gave me some words to describe what I was experiencing, and helped me know that I was experiencing something. That this was something, and that it was actually real. What I was feeling was real, though the conclusions I was reaching about it perhaps were not. But what I was feeling was real, and because I tend to be a decision maker from way back, had I not had that conversation with that initial conversation with you, I would have, well, whether or not I would even be doing this, I can't even say. Let me start there. But I will say this about it. I would have continued to just take that feeling and push it to the side as something that, okay, that's just getting in my way of doing what I'm trying to do, as opposed to saying, no, this is something you need to walk through and get to the other side of, or you're never gonna get where you're trying to go. And I'm pretty comfortable with, I think that's the other thing for me, I'm pretty comfortable with uncertainty and ambiguity. Very comfortable. Matter of fact, I used to tell my people who come to my team that if you're not comfortable with ambiguity, I'm probably going to drive you crazy. Because
that need details.
You need details. You're going to have to push me for some details, because I don't know. I just know this is where we are and that's where we're going, and we're going to get there.
We're flying. Flying.
Absolutely. And you mentioned earlier about the balance of Andra and I. One of the beauty, I think one of the things that's most beautiful about our relationship and why it works in our business relationship, because she is very detail oriented. And she is very, so her mind will immediately go to how we're going to get that done. Yes. Right. And it can sound like she's raining on your parade, but because I know her, she's not. What she's saying is, this is what I do.
Yes. This is what makes the scene. So, absolutely. You're good at what you do, and she's great at what she does. And together, this is what's allowed you to make the decision and be flourishing in this space. I love it. Tony Moore, as we close, I have one final question I'd love to ask. Ooh. How would you define limitlessness?
I would describe it as the willingness, or the ability to, maybe ability is a better word. So the ability to move forward in spite of what you feel, what you're thinking, what others are saying to you. I think there's a liberation in that ability to move forward in spite of. So I'll give you an example of this. I think that oftentimes, I've actually said this in some sessions before, that sometimes the worst advice you can give someone is to say to them, don't be afraid. What I'm going to say, because I don't know how to not be afraid if I'm afraid. I don't know what it's not like there's a switch. Did you just go, okay, don't be afraid.
Thanks for telling me.
Oh my gosh, let me get out of this thing. If I'd only thought of that last night when I couldn't sleep, right? So what I want to tell you is, in spite of your fear, let's keep moving forward.
Mm.
Let's accept the fear as the natural part of the process. And the greater the fear, perhaps the greater the reward that's on the other side of it. Maybe the reason it's so strong is because there's something great waiting over there for you. And the
Mm.
more reserved you're feeling about it, that's probably because it's bigger than you can even imagine. And so I think the ability, when I think of that, it's that ability to do that in life, is to be able to walk forward in spite of what you're feeling, what others around you are saying, the messages that you're telling yourself. I think it liberates you in a way that I don't know how to describe other than to say it that way. So that, to me, that would be the definition of
Oh,
it.
the best one I've heard today.
Oh, cool.
Tony Moore, you are prolific, outstanding, incredible, impactful, light, and a beacon. And your mission, your personal mission, constantly is fulfilled. Even in this conversation, I'm uplifted. I can feel like I can start my day, and I consider it an honor that we've crossed paths, an honor to have served you, because in serving you, you've served me. And that's the beauty and the joy and the blessing in what I get to do. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to unleash you and to introduce you to your limitlessness, because the ripple effect and the people that you get to impact and you and Andre get to impact in your business is everything to me.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for that. It's been an honor. It continues to be an honor. And I will say that time that I spent with you is like it changed the trajectory of our lives and allowed us to, just as you described, broaden and deepen our impact in the world that we're in. And you started that process. You know, we started with a dream, kind of this idea, but those conversations, that's what lifted us up. So thank you.
Oh, it is my absolute pleasure, Tony. Everybody, Tony Moore speaks.
Is that cool?
That's cool.
That's cool. All right, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you.